The first time I truly saw myself, I was wearing a dress. Not my clothes, not my life. And yet, somehow, entirely me. Blake and I became friends in sixth grade when he transferred from Riverside. To him, our town felt enormous. And for reasons neither of us could explain, we connected immediately. We spent countless hours doing what boys our age did, exploring creek beds, wandering through the woods, filling our pockets with wild raspberries until our fingers turned purple. I suppose you could call us best friends. He was certainly mine because I had precious few over my short lifetime. What I did not know then, what I could not have known, was that Blake would one day hold me in his arms on a dance floor, that his lips would find mine under a porch light, that everything I believed about myself would shatter and rebuild into something terrifying and beautiful. But none of that had happened yet. Back then, I was just a strange, quiet boy who carried his books pressed against his chest the way girls did, who walked with small steps and swaying hips without realizing it, who felt a persistent gnawing in his gut every time someone called him by his name, a feeling he could not name and dared not examine too closely. Back then, I had no idea that my two best girlfriends would unlock a door I had been afraid to open my entire life, and that once opened, there would be no closing it again. I dressed differently. My hair hung long past my collar. I marched to my own rhythm and made no apologies for it. Looking back, I was the textbook nerd, bookish and quiet. At the time, I never thought twice about it. By the time high school loomed on the horizon, Blake towered over me. He had transformed into the quintessential football hero, 5'11", maybe 6 feet, packed with hard muscle, and weighing around 195. The coaches wanted him at halfback. His growth spurt had ignited in 7th grade and showed no signs of stopping. I, meanwhile, had essentially stopped growing at 13. If I stretched the truth, I could claim 5'4" and 120 pounds. Slight build would be generous. Skinny captured it better. Almost 15 when freshman year began, nothing had changed. My voice still climbed into soprano range. Hair refused to appear on my body. Legs, arms, face, nowhere visible. What a crushing disappointment. One afternoon, wallowing in self-pity, I confronted my mother. "Mom, when am I going to start growing? If I were a fish, they would throw me back." "Oh, honey," she said softly, pulling me close. "We are all unique. Everyone carries something special inside them. You will discover yours. There is something extraordinary about you. Just be patient. It will surface eventually." "Yeah, okay, Mom," I muttered. "I hope it happens soon." Blake had begun running with the football crowd. The varsity coach could barely contain his excitement over Blake's raw talent, already scheming to unleash him as a secret weapon against rival teams come autumn. Despite his soaring popularity, Blake never abandoned our friendship. He made certain I received invitations to parties and maintained some semblance of a social life, even if I functioned primarily as a tag-along wallflower. And tag along I did. Not quite a sidekick, but wherever Blake appeared, you could find me nearby, usually propping up a wall or serving some equally vital purpose. Occasionally, someone would even strike up conversation with me. By now, you have probably gathered that I had developed quite the inferiority complex. Well, within Blake's circle, I genuinely was inferior, so I accepted it. At least I breathed the same air as everyone else. Sometimes a girl would talk with me. I enjoyed those conversations. Their topics interested me far more than what boys discussed, since I could never qualify for macho in any conceivable form. Not that I had ever been on an actual date. I did have a couple of friends who happened to be girls, though. Madison and Ashley seemed to like me, although they treated me more like a sister than a boy. Madison actually dressed me up in her clothes once. Well, she succeeded completely, with Ashley urging and teasing alongside her. Between them, they had accumulated enough items that fit me perfectly. They applied makeup, styled my hair, transformed me entirely. I have worn it long ever since. There, I stood in a pretty full-skirted dress, with panties and hosiery, and mid-heeled pumps, face painted and polished. When they finally allowed me to see their handiwork, I was utterly dumbfounded. They simply stood there giggling, fussing over me as though I truly were a girl, telling me how adorable I looked. How mortifying! And yet, on some deeper level, thrilling. A strange gnawing had always existed in my gut regarding gender. Madison and Ashley must have sensed it, because they had always treated me like one of them. I wished my parents had chosen a different name. Jamie was short for James, but to Madison and Ashley, Jamie meant Jamie. Nothing masculine about it. The very notion of asking either of them on a date seemed absurd. Them or any other girl. I understood what a lesbian was, and taking a girl out would have made me feel like one. Perhaps I genuinely felt like a girl inside, even if I refused to admit it. You could say they teased me into dressing up, and it was not even Halloween. They had threatened, or rather promised, that come autumn of freshman year, they would take me to a Halloween party as a girl. I dismissed it as idle chatter, though the idea stirred something electric within me. Meanwhile, Blake was excelling on the football team. Although he had not yet earned a starting position, he saw considerable playing time. I was genuinely proud of him. Madison, Ashley, and I attended every single game, cheering him on from the stands. I must have looked rather silly, bouncing up and down alongside my girlfriends, but excitement for Blake and our team overwhelmed any self-consciousness. At the post-game parties, he would find me and introduce me around as his best friend. That simple gesture filled me with warmth. Having someone as tall and handsome and popular as Blake claim me as his closest companion. The girls adored him, thought he was absolutely gorgeous. I suppose he was. Halloween arrived near the end of football season. Snow flurries had dusted the field during our final game. I had completely forgotten about the threat. True to their promise, Maddie and Ashley cornered me and bullied me into attending the party as a girl. I suppose I could have flatly refused, but that persistent gnawing in my gut made me strangely persuadable. They transformed me into Rebecca Morgan, the alter ego of Wonder Woman, complete with a full-skirted dark blue chiffon dress and high heels. They declared me a natural with my long brunette hair and insisted I work on feminine deportment for 2 solid weeks before the event. Talk about indoctrination. They had me in that costume 6 separate times, just practicing, they claimed. I found myself beginning to agree with their assessment. I was rather cute. The experience challenged me at first. They dressed me from the skin out. Spandex panties, sheer pantyhose, a bra filled with gelatin balloons that warmed to my body temperature and bounced exactly like real breasts. What a peculiar sensation, carrying that weight, those tantalizing orbs moving with every step. The realism startled me. Madison's high heels made my feet and calves ache initially, but after several hours, practicing how to walk and sit and smooth my skirt and perform all those feminine rituals, I adapted. My legs throbbed the following day. The heels themselves were not terrible. I rather liked them, actually. They made my feet look pretty, but I was uncertain whether to confess that to my friends. Judging from how they treated me during practice sessions, I probably did not need to tell them anything. They could see how naturally I warmed to the role they had designed for me. We shared wonderful times together, and I absorbed their feminine instructions like a sponge. They even dragged me to Walmart with them. But first, they attacked my eyebrows with tweezers. Hey, that hurts! No kidding! If you are going to be a girl, you have to endure a little pain. Get used to it. Maddie? What if someone recognizes me? I will never live it down. I'm not really going to be a girl. What do you mean, get used to it? Think about that for a minute, Jamie. Look at yourself. You make a genuinely cute girl, almost a fox, and we would never suggest this if we thought you might embarrass us. We should have done this ages ago. Besides, you are going to announce your coming out to the entire school on Halloween anyway. Then everyone will know how sweet and pretty and feminine you look. I honestly do not think anyone will mind or get terribly upset. They have had years to adjust to how unusual you are. You make a darling girl, Jamie, and it is rather obvious you enjoy the clothes. Be honest. They suit you perfectly. So soft and delicate. The way you have taken to your girl lessons. Well, let us just say you are a remarkably fast study. Must be in your genes or something? Besides, you have Blake to protect you, do you not? You two are really wonderful. I do not know how I would manage without you and Blake. And yes, I suppose he is my protector. Jamie, if you only knew how many times he has defended you, saved your skin, you would not believe it. Really? Yes, really. Some of his football friends have wanted to rough you up, but they will not touch you because of Blake. So I would be a very grateful little girl if I were you. Oh, I am, Ashley. I'm incredibly grateful to have Blake as my friend. I paused, something clicking into place. Ashley, you just called me a girl. Well, I cannot tell the difference between you and any other girl except for that little thing between your legs. Your panties lie almost as smooth as mine, and we know exactly how you feel deep down where it matters, Jamie. We never said anything before, but why do you think we became your friends? Would we spend time with some crude girl-crazy boy? I mean, boys are fun to date and tease, but honestly, we have far too much fun together for you to truly be one of them. You may be male on paper, but that is merely a technicality. You know, I have always sensed you two thought of me that way. I believed I resented it, but now I realize I do not. I genuinely love you both. Thank you for teaching me, for helping me understand myself. But I am still terrified about the fallout from this party. Just remember you have Blake and us. You will be absolutely fine. Just have a good time. Go with it. Play the part. You will have a ball, and who knows? Some of your detractors might even see the light and come around. Stranger things have happened. I suppose you're right. Are we still stopping by your house to tease your parents before the party? Jamie, I would not miss that for the world. When they see what a sweet daughter they have, I bet you will get along much better at home, too. Well, Dad has never really warmed up to me. He does not bother me, but there is distance between us. Mom, though, I might gain an ally there. I am not certain. She has always noticed how I act, and she has never discouraged me from helping around the house or doing girl things. She has even taught me feminine skills like sewing, and proper ways to eat and sit and walk like a lady. So that is how you already knew to walk in heels. Yeah. Mom caught me in hers once and decided that if I was so interested in girls' clothes, she would make me learn to walk like a proper lady. I'm not sure whether she intended it as punishment, but she had me practicing in heels with a book balanced on my head until I perfected the walk. I suppose I have moved that way ever since, have I not? Yes, Jamie, that is part of the problem. You glide. You take small steps. I swear your hips are nearly as wide as mine. You sort of resemble a boy when you are not wearing a dress, but you certainly do not act like one. I cannot imagine the trouble I have caused poor Blake. He must endure awful teasing about our friendship. Yes, he does, Maddie confirmed. But for some reason, he stands by you every single time. I suppose someday we will figure that out. For now, we will file it under unsolved mysteries. Madison and Ashley had calmed my nerves considerably about revealing my feminine side to the entire school. I felt genuinely resigned, perhaps even peaceful about it. I knew I would never disappoint my friends by chickening out, and I had to admit they were right. I did make a cute girl in my Diana costume. The big night finally arrived. I went to Maddie's house immediately after dinner to prepare for the party. They hot-rolled my hair and styled it extra pretty, unmistakably feminine. They applied adult makeup with careful precision, lining and shadowing my eyes until I looked 15 going on 22. Then, with one friend positioned on each side, their heads close to mine as we all gazed into the makeup mirror, they each grabbed one of my earlobes. For approximately 5 seconds, sharp pain shot through me. Hey, what did you two just do? You will see in a moment, Jamie. They each inserted a gold hoop earring into the fresh holes they had created. My God, you pierced my ears. Now I am really in for it. Honey, the way you look, anything less would be a sacrilege. You simply must have pierced ears like the rest of us. You will love them. Clip-ons pinch, but you will barely notice these. Well, maybe I will not notice them, but everyone else in the world certainly will. Oh, hush, crybaby. You can let them heel over if you choose, but we are betting you will not. If there are boys at this party who do not know you, you are going to get hit on, girlfriend. You are simply too adorable. As if I was not already in enough trouble. Now I have to worry about boys trying to cop a feel. I blushed furiously at that, though I was secretly, well, perhaps not so secretly, thrilled to hear it. Maddie and Ashley slipped into their costumes as Batgirl and Catwoman, and we departed for my house under the pretense of trick-or-treating. That is precisely what we did. I wore a mask over my eyes and nose that matched my dress, and we actually rang the doorbell. When Mom answered, we chimed in unison. Trick or treat? We are only joking, Mrs. Mitchell. It is Madison and Ashley. Oh, you girls look terrific. And who is your lovely friend? Rebecca Morgan, I presume? Well, yes and no, Mrs. Mitchell. This is Jamie. Is she not absolutely gorgeous? Oh, my lord. Jamie? Is that really you? Yes, Mom. Do you like the costume? Well, it certainly becomes you, dear. The high heels and everything. And pierced ears? My, you do make a lovely girl. Robert, come in here and look at Jamie's friends' costumes. This is going to be entertaining, I thought, exchanging glances with my girlfriends. And now my own mother just called me a girl. Is this some kind of conspiracy? Hi, girls, Dad said, entering the room. Which one is who? I am Madison, announced Batgirl. I am Ashley, declared Catwoman. And I am the mystery guest, I added on impulse. Oh, a little guessing game. All right, then. Who else does Jamie spend time with, Linda? By this point, the three of us plus Mom had dissolved into such helpless giggles, we nearly wet ourselves. Madison finally caught her breath and announced, Mr. Mitchell, may I present your daughter, Jamie? I watched Dad's expression shift. He was visibly shaken, but he rallied like a trooper, making appreciative sounds and offering compliments. The words seemed sincere, if slightly hollow. Only time would reveal his true feelings. I could see the encounter had rattled him. We said our goodbyes and headed toward the party. The moment the front door closed behind us, we erupted into another fit of uncontrollable giggles. Thankfully, Madison had recently obtained her license and borrowed her father's car, sparing us the 6-block trek to the party. All three of us wore 3-inch heels, and none of us would have relished that walk. Pretty shoes existed to be admired, not for serious distance. Some partygoers recognized Maddie and Ashley immediately, but not me, at least not right away. Despite my best efforts and a fairly convincing girlish voice, I suspect guilt by association eventually exposed me. The three of us were always together, so naturally, 1 + 1 + 1 equaled discovery. Soon enough, a quiet buzz circulated through the room. I felt eyes tracking me, mentally undressing me, simultaneously disbelieving and utterly convinced. Their expressions revealed everything. The cat had escaped the bag now, even though I kept my mask firmly in place. Sure enough, a boy I did not recognize approached and asked me to dance. I started to decline, but Ashley jabbed me hard in the ribs, and I mean genuinely hard. So I accepted. He stood a good 4 inches taller than me, even in my heels, and he moved beautifully. I felt grateful it was an upbeat number requiring minimal contact. When it ended, he thanked me politely, and I returned to my girlfriends. Well, was that not fun? Yeah, it actually was. This whole experience is becoming terribly confusing. Like we told you, Jamie, just enjoy yourself. The rest will sort itself out. I resolved to follow that advice. It genuinely was fun. We lingered near the punch bowl when another tall, handsome blonde fellow in a Superman costume approached and asked me to dance. He possessed the physique to match the outfit. What an absolute specimen. This one I recognized instantly. Blake. Hi, Jamie. You look wonderful. Come on, let us have some fun. And so my hero and I stepped onto the dance floor together. Considering all the ribbing he already endured because of our friendship, I could scarcely believe he would risk dancing with me publicly. And the feelings stirring inside me felt so peculiar, so unexpected. A path cleared before us. The other dancers gave us breathing room. Another fast song played, and Blake and I moved together with easy joy. When the tempo shifted to something slow, he gazed down at me with the strangest expression and pulled me into his powerful arms. I nearly melted. I could not have resisted his embrace even if I had wanted to. I felt weak, helpless, impossibly delicate in his grasp as he twirled me across the floor, holding me close exactly as he would any other girl. My skirt swirled around my legs with each turn. Something extraordinary passed between us. Some current I had never experienced before. We shared a bond forged through years of friendship, certainly, but this was something entirely different. I tilted my face upward. He was staring at me intently, at my eyes, perhaps my lips. I could not be certain. It felt as though he wanted to kiss me. Call it intuition. If the room had been empty, I honestly would not have minded. Blake was not merely my friend anymore. From my newly awakened feminine perspective, he was magnificent. The feelings flooding through me, especially the warmth spreading through my panties, left me breathless and bewildered. When the music stopped, he was still holding me. He seemed to realize belatedly that the song had ended. Slightly self-conscious, we separated, and he escorted me back to my friends. "Thank you, Jamie. That was wonderful." He returned to his cluster of football teammates. We watched carefully. No teasing occurred over there. We checked. "Well, Jamie, how was dancing with your hero? I do not think words can capture what I felt." "That is perfectly all right," Maddie said, grinning. From the dreamy way you two gazed at each other, it was obvious from across the room. "We think you are both in love and simply do not realize it yet. You cannot be serious, Maddie. I cannot be in love with a boy, let alone my best friend. Would I lie to one of my best girlfriends? Trust me, little sister. There is fresh electricity crackling between you two. After all, he knew exactly who he was dancing with. I think you are imagining things. I cannot possibly be interested in a boy. Wait and see." The remainder of the evening unfolded normally. We all danced, mingled, and enjoyed ourselves. Since the following day was a school day, the masks came off at 11 o'clock sharp. The DJ announced the final dance. Always a slow one. Blake walked directly to me. Without uttering a word, he took my small hand with its long, sculpted fingernails and guided me onto the floor. Once again, he enveloped me in his strength. Suddenly, I recognized I had found heaven. I gazed up at him and offered a demure, sweet, helpless smile, then rested my head against his shoulder. In that instant, we both knew. We understood something we had never acknowledged before, the true reason behind our friendship. It was love, long unrequited, and I wondered whether it could ever be fulfilled. All I knew with certainty was that I intended to savor every second of this dance in my hero's arms if it was the last thing I ever did. Heaven help me. I was in love with a boy, my best friend. I was surely bound for hell. "May I see you home, Jamie?" "Really, Blake?" "Yes. I do not want any harm to come to you." "Am I in danger from your friends?" "Not if they wish to remain my friends." "All right, thank you. I will get your coat. It is the blue wool, is it not?" "My, you are observant. You knew it was me the entire time, did you not?" "Of course. How could I not?" Blake helped me into my coat, and we departed the party for my house. He opened the car door for me, then escorted me directly to the front porch. When we reached the door, he paused. "Jamie, I do not quite know what to say." At that precise moment, I realized I was supposed to have returned to Maddie's house and changed back into my boy clothes. Just as quickly, I realized I did not care. I was with Blake. I would not have traded this moment for the entire world on a string. He had made me forget everything else, and I could not have cared less how I entered my house. The porch light glowed above us. Blake gazed down at me with that sweet, peculiar expression, then bent and kissed me full on the lips. After hesitating for only a fraction of a second, I returned the kiss completely. We remained locked together for at least a full minute, the most wonderful minute of my life thus far. Then, just as suddenly, it ended. Still holding my feminine painted hand in his, he whispered, "See you in class, Jamie." My knees nearly buckled beneath me. He called me Jamie. He truly saw me as a girl. What was happening to my world? Blake had kissed me, genuinely kissed me, and I had savored every heartbeat of it. Oh my. I stood frozen on the porch, watching his taillights disappear down the street, completely mesmerized. Then the evening chill rushed up beneath my dress, snapping me back to reality. I fumbled for my key and let myself inside. True to form, Mom and Dad were still awake, waiting up for me. I doubt they expected Rebecca Morgan to walk through that door any more than I had intended her to. Yet there she stood. "Hello, darling," Mom said warmly. "Have a nice time?" She never missed a beat despite my appearance, though her eyes fixed directly on my lips. I knew instantly my lipstick was smeared. Why had I not possessed the sense to check it on the porch? Lack of experience. Too overwhelmed by what had just happened. Having never been kissed as a girl before, the lipstick had completely slipped my mind. Well, the damage was done. I would certainly hear about it tomorrow. I'm tired. Yes, we had a wonderful time. Thank you. Good night. With that, I tapped my way upstairs in my heels and retreated to my bedroom. After removing my makeup and Maddie's borrowed clothing, I inserted the small gold studs Maddie had provided and dabbed peroxide on my tender lobes. When I pulled back the covers, a silky nylon nightgown in royal blue lay waiting, accompanied by a matching pair of lacy satin panties. Of course I put them on. Mom, I love you. What would come next, I wondered. Dad had already departed for work by the time I came downstairs the following morning. I had remained in my new nightie after discovering a girl's robe and slippers, precisely my size, hanging in my closet. Naturally, I wore them. "Good morning, honey. Did you sleep well?" "Wonderfully, Mom." "And thank you. I mean, genuinely. Thank you for the gifts. Did you go shopping while we were at the party?" "Well, as a matter of fact, I did, sweetheart. What you have discovered so far is hardly everything. Just the tip of the iceberg, actually. I believe I am going to rather enjoy having a daughter finally out in the open. I have always known I had one anyway. How is Dad handling this?" "A bit uncomfortable, but he has always recognized your nature, too. He will adjust in time. Now come sit. Eat. You are a growing girl." "Oh no, you too?" The girls have been relentless about how feminine I am. "What were you using for a bosom last night?" It appeared remarkably real. Gelatin-filled balloons. "Have you considered having the real thing, honey?" "I have thought of little else, Mom. I simply do not know how it would be possible." "Could I? Truly? We shall see, sweetheart. Perhaps we simply will not inform your father until after the fact. Regardless, I will ask our doctor about consulting one of those gender psychiatrists I have heard about. That should clarify matters one way or another. Thank you, Mom. Now go get dressed for school and try to look boyish, will you?" She giggled as she said it. "I will try, but you realize I am not going to enjoy it. After that smeared lipstick last night, I imagine you will not. You saw that?" "Oh yes, dear. I noticed immediately, and I have been dying to ask about it. Who brought you home? Why, I heard your heels clicking on the porch, yet it took so long before you came inside, and why I heard no conversation whatsoever. But I am not going to press you right now. We do not have time for you to volunteer the details either. Tell the psychiatrist first, and then perhaps we can discuss it." "Sure, Mom." When I arrived at school, Madison and Ashley descended on me instantly. "Well? Well, what?" "Do not be coy, young lady. What happened last night when you arrived home wearing my clothes instead of your own? And what transpired between you and Blake? Spill everything. Tell all. We have no secrets anymore. Do I have to? Yes. And do not forget to return my clothes. I adore that dress. Although you may keep the lingerie and heels. Those are not my favorite pair. And I own more lingerie than I need anyway. Well, thank you. I'm still wearing the panties, actually. Well, he drove me home and walked me to the door. That is all. Bull. Not buying it, are you? Nope, they chimed in unison. All right. He kissed me. I mean, he genuinely kissed me, and I kissed him back. I have never experienced anything like it in my entire life. It might have been better than I imagined sex would be. I never considered myself gay, yet there I stood, kissing a boy and absolutely loving every second. A boy I have known for years. It feels completely outrageous. I thought dancing with him was thrilling, but that kiss was simply incredible. That is more like it. We knew it. I cannot wait to discover what happens next, Ashley exclaimed. Mark my words, girlfriend. You are in love, and so is Blake. Well, you are going to find out regardless, so I may as well confess. I am going to see a gender psychiatrist about possibly really becoming a girl? Yes. See what you two started? Are you not ashamed? I giggled despite myself. Not for a single minute. Will the doctor prescribe hormones and help you grow breasts and everything? That is what I am hoping. Mom went shopping and bought me some beautifully feminine presents last night. I slept in one of them with matching panties, and right now I am wearing your pair underneath my clothes, along with a camisole instead of my usual undershirt. Well, I will be, Maddie breathed. See? You do have an ally. What about your father? Mom suggests we simply wait until I have developed enough that turning back becomes impossible before informing him that I am truly going to become his daughter. After school that day, Mom greeted me with news. Well, honey, I secured an appointment with Dr. Mitchell for this Monday after school at 4 o'clock. Do you think you can be ready by then? Oh, certainly, Mom. As Jamie? Oh. Well, yes. If I wear the lingerie Maddie gave me to school. Except for the bra, obviously. You will not need to rely on Maddie's things anymore, sweetheart. You have not explored the back of your underwear drawer yet. Why not go upstairs and investigate your room more thoroughly? All right. I want you to attend the appointment as Jamie because the doctor should witness the authentic you. It will help him grasp the full impact of your situation. Presenting yourself as a girl will probably help clarify things for you as well. We need to go shopping for a dress and proper shoes this weekend. Wear your lingerie and hosiery then too, so we can determine correct sizing. She paused, a bemused smile crossing her face. Imagine a mother-daughter shopping excursion with my son. How wonderfully absurd and delightful. We will pass you off as a girl even in boy clothes. It will be effortless. She considered for a moment. May as well purchase a few other items, slacks and blouses too. I have a feeling you will grow into them soon enough. Monday arrived. I barely made it on time. I kept smudging my mascara in my nervousness. Dr. Mitchell turned out to be a pleasant-looking middle-aged gentleman in a dark tailored suit. He radiated warmth and congeniality as he invited me into his private office. He did perform a slight double-take upon seeing me dressed as Jamie, but it registered as barely a hiccup before he gestured for me to sit. I lowered myself into the chair in my most feminine manner, smoothing my skirt beneath me. The dress and heels Mom had purchased were exquisitely feminine, and I reveled in my appearance. Now, Jamie, tell me about yourself and what brings you here today. I must say you make a remarkably attractive young woman, but are you absolutely certain this is what you want? Please explain why. Take your time. I hardly know where to begin, doctor. I have carried this peculiar sensation in the pit of my stomach for as long as I can remember, though I never understood what it meant. Obviously, I recognize how I look and behave. I have always wandered slightly off the conventional path. But until my girlfriends opened a door for me this Halloween, I never truly comprehended my feelings. Now I know with absolute certainty. I proceeded to explain everything: the dressing up, the practicing, the party, the dances, the drive home with Blake, and the kiss that changed everything. I knew then that I was either gay or transsexual, and the notion of being gay simply sent chills through me. I genuinely want the white picket fence and the 2.5 children. I want to become a mother. I truly do. I cannot imagine having a relationship with a boy while remaining as I am. At least, not a gay relationship. That is simply not who I am or what I desire. I want the complete picture: loving husband, comfortable home, children, everything as normal as blueberry pie. Do you understand, doctor? Yes, Jamie. Of course. I simply needed to confirm that you understood. He studied me thoughtfully. I realize we have only spent an hour together, but I am quite confident you fit the profile perfectly. We will conduct some formal psychological testing during your next session. For now, I want you to take this prescription to this laboratory and complete some blood work. Then, I will contact you to schedule your first injections and your Premarin prescription. Injections and pills? Yes, Jamie. You will develop more rapidly this way, and your male hormones will be completely suppressed. You will become incapable of functioning as a boy anymore. One medication will be spironolactone, which blocks all testosterone receptors. Your body will no longer recognize male hormones. It will forget you were ever a boy. He smiled gently. Judging by those hips, it may have forgotten already. Then, young lady, you will be well on your way toward your dream. I do not typically recommend such significant changes so early in a young person's life, but in your case, it will prove enormously beneficial never to develop male secondary sexual characteristics. At 15, you must have something unusual occurring with your hormonal balance, not to have manifested some masculine traits already. I will help you navigate all the legal and school complications as they arise. He rose and extended his hand. It has been delightful meeting you, Jamie. We will, of course, have many sessions like this one over the coming 3 months, while we evaluate the effects of reversing your chemistry. Please ask your mother to telephone me tomorrow. He handed me a small card. Have a safe trip home, Jamie. Goodbye, doctor. And thank you. To describe my state as euphoric would be wildly inadequate. I soared far beyond that realm. Fly me to the moon on gossamer wings captured it better. Fortunately, I had to take the bus since my driver's license remained several months away. In my current mental state, I would have certainly collided with something. My thoughts raced and wandered in every direction simultaneously. I nearly missed my stop as it was. Well, how did it go, honey? Fantastic, Mom. He says I fit the profile perfectly. I need to complete blood work, and he wants you to call him tomorrow. Here is his card. He plans to administer a battery of psychological tests, but he will begin my injections on my next visit if the lab results come back favorably. Well, that is wonderful, dear. Now why not go upstairs and change out of your pretty dress into something slightly less provocative? Okay, Mom. I ascended to my room and, leaving my hair, makeup, and jewelry exactly as they were, changed into some slacks, a feminine blouse, and flat shoes she had purchased for me. Then I returned downstairs. That is better, dear. Your father will be home soon. How about helping me prepare supper? Certainly. What would you like me to do? Prepare the potatoes, honey. And put on an apron. I could not help noticing how much more harmoniously Mom and I interacted now that I existed openly as her part-time daughter. Dad remained the challenge we needed to overcome. Though he rarely commented directly on my appearance lately, he never failed to register that he possessed a son in name only, the one recorded on my birth certificate. Although I presented completely feminine at dinner that evening, he simply carried on as though everything were perfectly normal. Perhaps he was growing accustomed to the idea. I certainly hoped so. Then again, he might simply be concealing his true feelings. I had no way of knowing. He had always been an excellent poker player. After 2 months of weekly injections and daily pills, it seemed I was removing gelatin from those balloon inserts every week. My posterior was unmistakably blooming to the extent that I had no choice but to start wearing girls' jeans to school. It was not as though anyone could distinguish them from boys' styles. I mean, denim looks virtually identical, except mine bore a designer label on the back pocket. I assumed nobody noticed. Ha! The joke was certainly on me. They noticed. Of course, wearing jeans that accentuated my behind and hips made my already slender waist appear even smaller. I began receiving compliments on my backside and my developing figure. Roger even offered one, right there in the school hallway. I was being admired. I must have blushed through at least 3 distinct shades, but I genuinely appreciated his attention. Madison and Ashley kept encouraging me to wear increasingly feminine clothing, but I did not dare push boundaries that far. I adopted bulky sweaters as my daily uniform, hoping to camouflage my excellent progress. Better than anyone realized, I prayed. At my next appointment, Dr. Mitchell greeted me warmly. "Well, Jamie, let us have a look at you. Remove your blouse and bra, please. I need to assess your development and take measurements. I can estimate accurately enough around your skirt, so do not trouble yourself with that. I already know what is happening down there. You are shrinking. We will examine that more closely at 3 months. Okay, doctor." I did as instructed. It has been 10 weeks. How are you feeling? Wonderful. I experienced some dizziness initially, but it only persisted a few days. He studied his notes and smiled. Well, you have gained 14 centimeters in your bust and 20 in your hips. Excellent progress for such a brief period. Are you encountering any difficulties with the other students? Not really. I had to transition to girls' jeans, and I try wearing bulky sweaters, sweatshirts, and otherwise baggy tops. But I am wearing a bra constantly now, even though I use a sports bra during school hours. What did the gym teacher say? He never really got the opportunity. Mom wrote a note to the principal, and I am no longer required to take physical education. What did she tell him? I have no idea. She refused to share the details. He nodded thoughtfully. Well, let us see if we cannot set things in motion and get you enrolled in the girls' class instead. Really? Yes. Based on our conversations, your intelligence testing, your preference assessments, and your response to therapy, absolutely no doubt remains in my mind. You genuinely want this. You are obviously comfortable with the process, and I believe it is right for you. Therefore, I'm going to initiate my formal recommendations, beginning with your school, that you be officially reassigned as female. He paused. Besides, I have never discussed the results of your blood test with you. You might find them rather interesting. Really, doctor? Blood is simply blood, is it not? Essentially, yes. However, I had the laboratory run a special chromosome test on yours. I doubt you possess any female reproductive organs, although it remains possible. But you definitely have an interesting chromosome count. Boys are supposed to be XY, while girls are supposed to be XX. Yours is a combination, XXXY. There could actually be up to 5 X chromosomes preceding the Y. Although medical science once believed this configuration caused diminished intellect, we were mistaken. You have what is called a form of Klinefelter's syndrome, for want of a better description. As far as your blood chemistry is concerned, you are more girl than boy and always have been. He paused to let that sink in. I hope that provides some comfort. It certainly helps explain a great deal, doctor. Essentially, what I believe occurred in your case, Jamie, was that when your body differentiated as outwardly male in your mother's womb, your brain and certain other areas were flooded with estrogen and did not follow suit. In the final analysis, the mind governs the body. Bringing you back to a female form would be more harmonious with your true nature. He made some notes. Now we will petition the court for a legal name change, then request that the state amend your birth certificate. There have been numerous reassignments in this region, and the state presents no obstacle once the name change is finalized. What is your principal's name? David Anderson. Excellent. I will advise him of my findings, and we will work on securing a status change so you can begin being yourself full-time. He looked up. What about your father? I believe he should definitely receive a copy of that letter. I remain uncertain about his feelings, and documentation might help. Consider it done. By the time your 3-month evaluation concludes in a couple of weeks, we should have everything moving in the proper direction. Dr. Mitchell smiled warmly. I'm going to teach you how to administer your own injections because I must charge for doing that myself. You do not mind saving your folks some money, do you? No? They would appreciate that, especially Daddy. He tilted his head, observing me with sudden interest. That is interesting. What? You just called him Daddy. That is the first time you have done so, and that is typically what girls call their fathers. I blinked, surprised at myself. Goodness. You are right. Do hormones alter your thinking as well? Absolutely, Jamie. The glands that produce and distribute hormones, which are not all located between your legs, incidentally, are being reversed. Your brain is no longer receiving male signals. You have genuinely begun thinking like a girl. That is an excellent sign. Start calling him Daddy at home too, all right? I think I would like that. I hope he does not mind. And so, with summer vacation less than 3 months distant, I would turn 16 in May, soon to be a 16-year-old girl. When I shared the news with Maddie and Ashley, they were absolutely beside themselves. I had never allowed them to witness my upper body development, although I could no longer conceal my expanding curves below. But after everything the doctor had revealed, I figured the time had arrived. Friday afternoon, I visited Madison's house wearing my regular bra, one that enhanced my own budding figure, without the gelatin inserts from the larger C-cup version. The first words from Maddie's mouth were predictable. What happened to your breasts? They have shrunk. No, Maddie. I'm not using the balloons anymore. You are what? That is actually you? Every 34A+, almost B-inch. Holy. Wow. I am genuinely impressed. Honey, you are going to be stacked like your mother. That would be rather wonderful. With the accelerated growth hormones, I should reach that point within 6 more months. I suppose you cannot hide anymore, can you? I suppose not. Jamie is definitely here to stay, thanks to your meddling, Madison. Thank you again for meddling, you devious creature. You're welcome already. It was about time you recognized who you truly were. And what better opportunity than good old Halloween? She grinned mischievously. By the way, what are you and Blake up to these days? Nothing at all, really. He visits the house occasionally, but we no longer spend time together at school. I suppose the pressure became too much for him or something. I genuinely miss his company, but it is understandable. Just wait until this summer when he sees you in a bikini. What size are you wearing now? A 9. I wager that will be a full 10 by the 4th of July. We are going to have such fun teasing boys this summer. You might get lucky. I do not want to get lucky, Maddie. I do not want some boy doing me up the rear. Oh, I apologize. I simply assumed. Boys are more or less off limits if they start becoming serious. Understood? Okay. We will not push the issue. Ashley and I will continue watching out for you and keeping the wolves at bay, but it will not be easy. Thank you. I want to attend dances and social events, but I am genuinely frightened of getting trapped in some back seat at the drive-in, if you understand my meaning. Oh, do I ever. You might change your mind eventually, though. Petting can be rather enjoyable. I am certain it is. But let us drop the subject, all right? Sure. 2 weeks later, Mr. Anderson summoned me to his office. I was still maintaining my baggy clothing strategy. Jamie, after receiving that note from your mother, and now this letter from your doctor, I see we are going to need to make some changes. Please forgive me if I seem awkward about this. It is my first experience with such a situation. I understand there are tens of thousands of people like you out there, but I have never actually known one personally, especially a student. I'm rather new to all this myself, Mr. Anderson. What happens now? Well, for one thing, all your teachers have been informed. You will begin attending girls' physical education class starting Monday, and you will be expected to adhere to the guidelines of conduct and dress code for our female students. That is essentially the extent of it. I am oversimplifying, but fundamentally, that covers everything. He glanced at his papers. I understand you have a legal name change in progress, and that you wear a special undergarment that makes you appear identical to the other girls. Yes, sir. And the doctor confirms your birth certificate will be amended to read female. Yes, sir. Well then, that settles matters. I do not suppose you will be the last. He rose and extended his hand formally. Welcome to our school, Jamie Ann Mitchell. Thank you, sir. I hope I will not disappoint you or the faculty. If we encounter any problems with you, young lady, believe me, you will find yourself sitting here in a considerably different capacity. I understand the message clearly, sir. Thank you. Have a good day, Jamie. That evening, immediately after dinner, I telephoned Blake. Blake? Yes? You will not believe it. I start school next week as myself. I mean as the girl me. Jamie Ann. Well, it is about time. You too? Of course, me too. I hope I can see considerably more of you now, Jamie. You genuinely want that, Blake? Certainly, sugar. You do not think that kiss was an accident, do you? I honestly did not know what to think. You have been avoiding me ever since. I know, and I apologize for that. School politics. But now that you are going to be legal, I do not care anymore. I want to see you. You mean as in date me? What am I speaking here, Chinese? Yes, you silly little thing. I want to date you. Why do you imagine I have been visiting your house and chatting up your parents all this time? I had no idea. Well, I genuinely did not realize you felt that way about me, Blake. Neither did I until recently. But now I do, so yes. Of course. Yes. Nothing would make me happier. Excellent. Your house. 7 o'clock next Friday. A movie in the Sunday shop afterward? That sounds perfect. Then it is a date. If I do not see you beforehand, dress up a little for me, all right? No problem. I hung up and practically floated into the kitchen. Mom, I just spoke with Blake on the telephone. He wants to take me out next Friday. May I? I had already accepted, but I knew she would approve. Well, of course, honey. Blake is a very nice young man, and he has been your friend for ages. I believe we can trust him. Do you not agree? Yes, but I was uncertain how you would feel about me dating him. Honey, you are going to become a real girl, and you will need to learn how to handle men. Your teenage years are the appropriate time for that education, so you may as well begin. What did Daddy think of the doctor's letter? Sending one directly to your father was an excellent idea. You will not receive any more mixed signals from him. We had a lengthy conversation, and he is resigned if not enthusiastic. But you just continue being yourself, and he will eventually embrace having you as his daughter. You will see. That is wonderful news. The following Monday, I, Jamie Ann, reported to homeroom. My teacher, Mrs. Coleman, proved wonderfully kind, and I simply took my regular seat. I wore a simple straight skirt paired with a crisp white blouse, a lightly padded B-cup bra beneath, and a pair of skimmer flats. A few stares tracked my entrance, and whispers rippled through the room for several seconds. But Mrs. Coleman was not someone students wanted to challenge, and silence descended immediately. Just before 9 o'clock, we recited the Pledge of Allegiance, then dispersed to our first classes. Mine, strangely enough, was physical education. I had brought my gym bag containing a fresh t-shirt, shorts, pink and white sneakers, clean panties, and a spare bra. My gaff would handle the shower room situation. The doctor had positioned boy Jamie's anatomy internally, and nothing inappropriate showed externally. Apparently, Mrs. Harper had telephoned Mom following the faculty meeting to explain how I should manage the shower situation. I could still urinate. The process felt slightly peculiar, but caused no discomfort. Mrs. Harper simply did not want me making the other girls uncomfortable, and I certainly did not want to stand there displaying breasts alongside male anatomy. Quite a commotion erupted in the locker room when I appeared. Nicole, tall, athletic, typically chosen as basketball team captain, spoke first. Well, little sister, we wondered when you would finally show up. Welcome to Club Chickadee. Approximately a dozen girls dissolved into giggles. Thank you, Nicole. But what do you mean about wondering when I would arrive? Honey, you are the worst kept secret in this entire school. What? You thought you were successfully hiding behind all those baggy sweaters? Every time you stretched or yawned or jogged down the hallway, we saw them. Or watched them bounce. We all know what breasts look like, remember? You appear to be a solid B cup. Damn. And here I believed I was getting away with it. Give us girls more credit from now on. You had better, girlie. We do not miss much. Nicole's expression grew slightly more serious. Just one word of warning. Keep your distance from our boyfriends. You are simply too adorable. I smiled reassuringly. You genuinely do not need to worry about that, Nicole. Good. At this point, my relationship with Blake had not yet become public knowledge. Well, gym class would certainly remedy that situation. I could have purchased advertisement time on the school's closed-circuit television, but the girls in physical education would spread the word far more efficiently. Jamie was as much girl as any of them, with one small exception. Within a couple of days, people who had never bothered acknowledging my existence were actually speaking to me, both girls and boys. Thank heaven for the 90s and the information age. Jerry Springer aside, they discovered that a transsexual was not such a bizarre creature after all. In my particular case, it resembled being born with a correctable birth defect. I truly was female chemically, and I made certain everyone received the accurate story. I spent the entire week preparing for my first genuine date as a girl. I still struggled to believe it was actually happening, and oscillated constantly between nervous anticipation and pure excitement. I am certain you understand. Nothing was left to chance. Mom considered it such a momentous occasion that she treated me to the complete works at the salon I had frequented since Halloween. Crystal outdid herself. She gave me a fresh, soft, curly permanent, added subtle highlighting, and double-pierced my ears, placing birthstone studs in the upper holes while my hoops remained in the lower ones. Then Vanessa attended to my nails. I wore the dress I had selected for Blake so they could coordinate my lipstick and polish perfectly. He had requested that I dress up, and this particular dress featured a full skirt with a slightly revealing bodice. Vanessa also gave me a pedicure and complete waxing, including a bikini wax. By the time I departed the salon, I could not imagine feeling more feminine. But then again, Blake and I had not yet been on our date. As promised, Blake arrived at 7 o'clock sharp, no honking from the curb. He came inside, conversed politely with my parents, and then we departed together. The movie was wonderful, a romantic story that had me instinctively snuggling closer to him in the darkened theater. Blake held my hand throughout, my long, perfectly feminine nails nestled in his warm palm. When the credits rolled, we went for ice cream, and not a single moment passed when he did not treat me like a proper lady. His attentiveness raised goosebumps across my skin. The other teenagers at the Sunday shop certainly performed double takes upon seeing Blake and me together on an obvious date, but normalcy resumed within minutes. Now the word was officially out. I noticed a few jealous glances from other girls, which secretly thrilled me. When we reached my house around 11, instead of walking me directly to the door, we parked in front of the house to talk. Blake drives a small pickup truck with a bench seat. I found myself gravitating closer to him, and he draped his arm around my shoulders. This was the moment of truth, the moment I had been anticipating, praying for. My next kiss. I sensed it approaching. We both knew it was inevitable. Blake drew me toward him and kissed me tenderly. It was brief, but that was merely the opening. That familiar look returned to his eyes, and this time I kissed him first, wrapping my arms around his neck. He was a magnificent kisser. Then I felt his tongue gently probing my lips, seeking entry. I parted my teeth, and our tongues danced as our embrace grew increasingly passionate. I was melting. Lipstick was smearing. Suddenly, the temperature inside Blake's truck seemed to climb dramatically. Or perhaps that was simply me. My resolve was weakening. I understood that nothing too serious could transpire directly in front of my house, but whatever might happen probably would. I had surrendered control once again. Now I understood what the girls meant about getting hot. Blake's left hand rose while we remained locked in our kiss and gently cupped my unpadded breast. My now substantial brown nipple sprang to attention, and he began massaging and teasing it. The sensation felt absolutely divine. Madison had been correct. Petting was genuinely enjoyable. Then, without conscious thought, my right hand came to rest on his thigh. We continued kissing as my hand traveled higher, discovering its throbbing target. He was so large and so firm. I found my fingers reaching for his zipper. And then sanity returned when I realized what I was contemplating. What was I doing? I had promised myself I would never end up in this position. This situation was no different from being at the drive-in theater. Yet I knew with absolute certainty that if Blake invited me, I would accompany him there willingly. A girl in love will venture far with her sweetheart, and I was undeniably, hopelessly in love with Blake. Blake, honey, I need to go inside. Mom and Daddy probably know we're sitting out here, and besides, I'm getting rather chilly. Jamie, one thing you are definitely not is cold, but I agree with you, you should go in. He paused, holding my gaze. Will you accompany me to the dance tomorrow evening? The only thing that could prevent me is death by chocolate. Well, how about we obtain some after the dance? Wonderful! With that, I gave him a brief goodnight kiss, then flipped down the visor mirror to repair my lipstick, providing him a little cleanup as well. I spun myself out of the pickup and wiggled my way to the front door in my heels. The doctor had been absolutely correct about the hormones. I was a complete mental convert already, and I knew with certainty that controlling myself around Blake would prove challenging after tonight. He was a dream materialized, my hero, my friend, my love. Oh my. One glance at my face, and Mom nearly burst out laughing. She understood precisely what I was experiencing and probably intuited what we had been doing. After all, she had been a young girl once herself. I suspected I displayed a touch of whisker burn from Blake's stubble. I caught her examining my face with a knowing look. Well, what did she expect? She was the one who insisted I would need to learn how to handle men. How was your evening, honey? He invited me to the dance tomorrow night. I suppose you do not need to ask whether I accepted. You are definitely going. Absolutely. All right, honey. Good night. I floated off to bed and dreams of Blake, wrapped in my baby doll nightie with matching ruffled panties. I could not fathom why I had resisted exploring my feelings for so long. I wished Maddie and Ashley had pushed me into this years earlier. Well, I would catch up soon enough. I drifted into slumber, encased in aqua-colored silk. My dreams that night were deliciously improper, and I awoke needing to change my underwear. Well, ruffled panties were unsuitable for school anyway. Saturday, Mom and I went shopping together. We purchased groceries, certainly, but now that I was fully committed, she wanted to treat me to everything I had missed, and everything she had missed doing with her daughter. We visited Victoria's Secret, where I acquired the most exquisite lingerie imaginable: panties, bras, camisoles, and slips. She must have spent $100 on me in that store alone, and the purchases did not fill many bags. She also bought me additional cosmetics, earrings, and perfume. What a magnificent mother I had. For the dance, I selected a simple skirt and blouse with a pair of flat shoes. I needed to grow accustomed to dressing like an ordinary girl on a date rather than appearing elaborate every time. When Blake arrived, I detected a flicker of disappointment, but I appreciated how he stood nearly a head taller than me in flats. That height difference made me feel even more feminine and protected beside my tall, muscular prince. Nobody batted an eye when we entered the gymnasium together. We enjoyed ourselves thoroughly. We both danced with other people throughout the evening, but the songs we shared together felt special. 4 different boys asked me to dance that night, and I accepted every invitation. Perhaps I wanted to stir a touch of jealousy in Blake. Perhaps I simply needed the experience. At minimum, I wanted him to appreciate me. The way he held me on the dance floor made our status as a couple unmistakably clear. It amazed me how dramatically my life was transforming. Our return home largely repeated the previous evening, except this time my hand ventured inside his trousers. That had featured in my naughty dream. A small portion of it, anyway. I could not help myself, nor could I believe what a real man felt like, as they say, up close and personal. He aroused me so intensely, I nearly lost control entirely. I only provided him a gentle massage. When I reached my bedroom, I discovered that I had indeed lost it without even realizing. My panties were soaked with thin, whitish fluid. Seminal fluid, I believe they call it, though I was certain nothing viable remained in it anymore. So that explained all the twitching I had felt. The sensation had been absolutely divine. Of course, I had discovered self-gratification long ago, but that was before my new hormone regimen. Back then, the substance was thick and viscous. No longer. I felt profoundly grateful Blake had not touched me there. It would have ruined everything for both of us. By the time freshman year concluded, Blake and I had become quite the established couple, and everyone in school recognized it. I had accumulated more friends than ever before. I was approaching genuine popularity. I had joined the Glee Club and occasionally performed solos. I made myself as outgoing and friendly as possible, and to earn extra money, I began babysitting. I absolutely adored young children. I never volunteered information about my history, and none of the parents ever commented, even if they had heard rumors. I rather doubted any parent who knew my background would permit me near their child. I must be some variety of deviant, correct? Incorrect. Sometimes Blake would visit, and we would spend time kissing. But I never permitted him between my increasingly shapely thighs, and I never engaged in anything that seemed remotely inappropriate. I understood teenage romances could terminate abruptly, and I certainly did not want a reputation as one of those girls. Mom had cautioned me, as had my friends. Just as Madison had predicted, by the time the school term ended, I was wearing a size 10 with a full 34B bra and 36-inch hips. Everything looked quite proportionate with my 25-inch waist. I was growing rather fond of my breasts. We were becoming close companions. Sometimes I addressed them playfully, referring to them as the girls. Sometimes I caressed them myself, using the techniques Maddie had recently demonstrated. I had no idea girls could arouse themselves that way. I absolutely loved it. I loved them, and they seemed to reciprocate the affection. Blake certainly appreciated my developing curves enormously, as he demonstrated during our petting sessions. The sensation felt truly remarkable, even more exquisite when a boy provided it. Madison had encouraged me to permit his explorations, and once again, her advice had proven rewarding. It was the increasingly feminine thoughts I was having about Blake that proved somewhat unsettling. Madison, Ashley, and I embarked on a shopping expedition to try on the latest swimwear for summer. I returned home with 3 suits, a stretch satin racing style, and 2 bikinis. Jamie, you are developing a genuinely adorable figure. We are going to have to fend off boys constantly this summer. Sounds delightful. Lead me to the water. One of my suits barely covered the essentials. And I mean barely. But it looked so cute and daring I could not resist. I did not particularly want Mom witnessing me in that one, as it only concealed my patch and my nipples, truly nothing more. My hair now cascaded down to my shoulder blades, and I knew it looked lovely. I decided to keep it long and wear it in a ponytail or French braid throughout the summer months. Blake had never seen me in a bathing suit, and even though he had grown quite familiar with my body by now, sometimes what you can merely glimpse proves more tantalizing than what you fully see. Imagine a black satin corselet with 6 garters leading to sheer black stockings paired with 4-inch black patent heels. I possessed exactly such an ensemble from Victoria's Secret, and he had seen that too, though Mom had not. It nearly drove him past the point of control. I was beginning to regret my partial status immensely. Finally, I obtained my driver's license. Now, Madison, Ashley, and I could take turns providing transportation for girls' night out, or when we needed to travel independently to games or dances. Over the course of summer, I continued developing. By the time school resumed, I had nearly reached a size 12, 34C, 24-inch waist, 37-inch hips. I had to start monitoring my diet carefully. I adored my new figure, but had no desire to become overweight. Blake and I remained very much a couple. He had thoroughly ingratiated himself with my father, volunteering to mow our lawn, a task I no longer performed since it was no longer among my duties. I handled inside labor now. I was learning to become a domestic goddess, as Roseanne would phrase it. Mom and I were growing more like sisters every day. My wardrobe expanded continuously, along with my collection of provocative lingerie and footwear. I suppose I had developed a minor shoe obsession. My closet contained over 30 pairs, and I was certain the collection was far from complete. I even wore heels around the house frequently, especially with dressy slacks, and sometimes to school as well, though never my highest spikes. Nothing defines femininity quite like high heels. School was becoming genuinely enjoyable, and I was no longer a nerd. I had evolved into something slightly preppy. I was pretty and popular and earning better grades than boy Jamie ever had, despite having less study time due to constant hair and nail maintenance. Thank heaven I only needed to shave my legs once weekly. My endocrinologist, I had finally learned the proper term for a hormone specialist, had guided me remarkably far and seemed quite pleased with his results. Praise heaven, my development eventually plateaued, but I was certainly mature at 16 and a half years old. And I discovered the truth behind a fundamental law of nature. Girls genuinely do mature mentally faster than boys. I was now older than Blake in those terms. He had earned a starting halfback position on the football team, and I felt immensely proud when practice commenced in August. He caught numerous passes, and some of those were from me. By now, both my legal name change and amended birth certificate were official. I was progressing through my real-life test as a female. I did not anticipate being eligible for surgery before turning 18 anyway, so the timing seemed unimportant. I largely stopped thinking about it. Dr. Mitchell continued monitoring me monthly. The endocrinologist, however, was better equipped to oversee my medical transition. Dr. Harrison proved equally pleasant, and he adjusted my hormone mixture slightly. Following that modification, I developed even more rapidly, particularly mentally, to my current state. Boy Jamie seemed like a distant memory. Thankfully, I gained no weight, but I certainly filled out to womanly proportions without a visible muscle anywhere. Blake had qualified as a lifeguard, so I got to observe him working as well as enjoy our dates. I suspect he did not appreciate all the boys buzzing around me, but Madison and Ashley attracted considerable attention themselves. I did not mind having attractive friends. It created friendly competition. When I positioned myself near his lifeguard chair, other girls understood to maintain their distance. I had developed claws by now and knew precisely how to deploy them. I was more deeply in love with him than ever, and everyone had grown accustomed to us being together. Our relationship was no longer remarkable. I was his girl. Madison's parents owned a spacious 6-passenger automobile, so the three of us and our boyfriends did eventually end up at the drive-in movie that summer. It was a triple date, and nothing terribly dramatic occurred. I had possessed the sense to wear shorts and a halter top. I no longer felt self-conscious in a halter after witnessing the reactions I received at the pool. True to form, the boys subjected us to considerable heavy petting, and my halter proved perhaps a little too convenient. One knot, and there they were, exposed. Blake was such a devastatingly handsome creature. I loved him to absolute pieces. That was my first time at the drive-in, and without a proper bra. I could scarcely believe I had allowed the girls loose in front of my friends. My second visit proved considerably different. Blake invited me to accompany him alone. I could not refuse. What can I say? I thought I would be clever and wear a skirt with a button-front blouse that evening, along with a proper bra. I had selected a lacy demi-cup and tight spandex panties, and just as for gym class, I wore my gaff. There was absolutely no way I intended to let Blake touch that particular area. What do they say about the road to ruin being paved with good intentions? By the time 30 minutes of the feature had elapsed, Blake and I were steaming the windows despite them being half open. You understand my meaning. He had unhooked my bra, and I had very carefully taken both hands to unzip him and release his manhood. I was so aroused I could not stop myself, nor was I certain I wanted to. When I did that, he reached beneath my skirt and slid his hand down the front of my panties, finding nothing. However, as I lovingly caressed him, he discovered a sensitive spot that helped bring me to ecstasy. We arrived at a shuddering state of collapse almost simultaneously, and I felt profoundly grateful for panty liners. He was rather messy, but did not seem to mind in the slightest. Plenty of tissues waited in the car, and the only lipstick on him decorated his face. Not that other thoughts had not crossed my mind. They certainly had. But at a drive-in theater? Not my style. And well, now I suppose he had something to discuss with his friends. But it had felt so magnificent I simply did not care. He told me he loved me, and I reciprocated. Would it not be wonderful if we could continue like this forever? Everything proceeded fairly normally until Christmas arrived. In addition to the usual feminine gifts one would expect for the holiday, there was an envelope addressed to me from something called GIC, whatever that meant. Mom seemed on pins and needles as it happened to be the final item I opened. It was genuinely fortunate I was sitting down. On the basis of my psychiatric and medical evaluations, I had been invited to a gender identity clinic for assessment prior to surgery. Surgery? Mom! Daddy! Is this genuine? Does it mean what I believe it does? Yes, sweetheart. As soon as your summer vacation commences this year, you will be a whole person for the first time in your life. You go in for testing over spring break, but it is merely a formality, I am told. Your father refinanced the car so we can afford it. Oh, Daddy. Thank you. I love you both so very much. Needless to say, every other present paled in comparison. I was utterly ecstatic and could barely wait to tell Madison and Ashley, but I wanted to deliver the news in person. I telephoned Ashley and asked her to meet me at Madison's house, then hurried over. Well, Jamie, what is this all about? You sounded so excited and mysterious over the telephone. I thought you were going to come straight through the line and materialize on my end, Ashley exclaimed. I said nothing but grinned like the Cheshire Cat. I simply handed them the letter. They opened it and read aloud together. I imagine Madison's parents wondered what the three of us were shrieking and bouncing about up in her bedroom. This was definitely over the top. Nothing in my life thus far could compare to this moment. Not even Blake. And believe it or not, I had no intention of telling him. I did not want his love to be influenced by anticipating intimacy with me in the near future. The girls agreed completely, and we made a solemn vow of silence on Christmas Day. That should be sacred enough to bind everyone to secrecy. We did respect the meaning of the holiday. Blake enjoyed a magnificent season, and so did I. I had enrolled in the computer course and finally mastered the programs employers were utilizing, along with learning to navigate the internet. I had a wonderful time with my newfound knowledge. I also discovered many of my sisters in cyberspace and established a new circle of pen pals and friends, not to mention a delightful story site hosted by a girl named Kelly. All at once, I possessed an extraordinarily full life as a young woman. Blake remained as attentive as ever. It was remarkable, really. Most high school romances do not endure this long. He was my first beau. Could it be that he would also be my last? And what would he do when he discovered why I had been away on vacation so long this summer? Perhaps by then I would be ready to spread my lipstick around a little. We shall simply have to wait and see, shall we not?